And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Schmoes Show. The only show where I might be holding a piano or I might not be. You'll never know. I'm the Infamous Oryan and I'm a Schmo.
I'm Cairo and I'm a Schmo.
And everything has been weird.
It's been very weird.
Do you ever think we're just on a hidden reality TV show? Hidden camera.
I it would, as I look into the camera right now, it would make a lot of sense.
You just give them like the office look.
Yes.
I've never seen The Office.
I haven't either, actually. I have the UK version on DVD, but
I've
I've
heard
never
that
watched it.
I've heard that's the best version.
I mean, it has Ricky Gervais,
Yeah,
and it's like, anything that's just Ricky Gervais being Ricky Gervais is usually going to be pretty good.
of course. At the same time though, does it have Steve Carell?
I don't think so.
There's a lack of Steve Carell.
hmm
If there's one thing the memes from The Office that I don't understand have taught me, you need Steve Carell.
It's honestly fascinating to see how his career has gone because he was like literally just comedy funny man to like the last 5 years where he's producing like actually really good serious films, and he's good at it. He can do more than just comedy, and it's really surprising.
I know. It's really impressive, really. Do
It is, because I always had him sort of like mentally on the same level as like Will Ferrell, and he's so much more than that.
you think Will Ferrell will ever have that kind of jump?
I really don't. Not at this point. Not after that god awful Holmes movie. What was that?
A
Did you
mistake.
hear about that? Oh my god.
We made fun of that like months in advance and we already knew it would be bad.
I'm pretty sure we did.
Yeah. We are really good at predicting movies, I find. Because every time we find a bad movie, we make fun of it and it turns out to be a calamity.
Such a just terrible movie. What's
Like,
that?
you remember Monster Trucks? Monster Trucks, how we made fun of that for like the longest time?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's how I feel about Holmes and Watson. We are like the Nostradamus of bad movies.
It didn't make back its budget.
Holmes?
Yeah.
Oh God.
It had a $42 million budget, and at the box office it only made 41.9 million.
Good.
That's perfect.
That's oh God. It got a point 0.5 out of 5 by Rolling Stone.
I don't doubt it. Can they give it a lower rating than that?
They could not have reviewed it at all.
There's a 10% on Rotten Tomato. Even the audience score on Rotten Tomato is only a 26.
What the hell? Okay.
Usually the like I even on awful movies, the audience scores are pretty good. That's remarkable.
I found this weird fever trip of a movie review on Google Reviews.
hmm
I'm pretty sure this is a meme, but I want to read it anyway. From Alexander Green on Holmes and Watson 2018. I love this movie from the start. When I finish when I spilled my nachos and cheese all over my pants, the part where the guy behind me broke his whiskey bottle on the floor when he fell asleep. Easily one of the best movies ever made. If you saw Step Brothers and Bewitched, again, classic comics of the highest caliber, you will love this Academy Award style film. From the ultimate handsome John C. Riley to the part where I spent most of the time in the bathroom cleaning the cheese from my pants and the Coke that spilled on the floor, a couple in front of me at the theater were on their knees from laughter. I, along with 6 other people in that large theater, were brave enough to buy movie tickets to this hysteria. Even my old granddad, who was in a coma for about 10 years, woke up from the sheer laughter as we wheeled him from the theater for therapy, hoping this movie would shock him. And it did. Please, if you spend your paycheck, the rent check, the girlfriend's credit card debt bill, instead, this is poorly written, by the way.
Mm.
Spend that money on this movie. Even I dare say the ex-wife's alimony money. It is worth it. And even Granddad, who God rest his soul, died while in attendance from the sheer thrill of this movie. R.I.P. Gramps. You will be glad you did.
There's some pretty good critic reviews here on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, great.
Some of the best ones here is one that's just Holmes and Watson is bad. That's the review. Rolling Stone, it's so painfully unfunny, we're not sure it can legally be called a comedy. 0.5 out of 5. And then there's some of these good descriptors. They have pointless, ridiculous, insulting, lazy, unfunny, unoriginal, nothing new nor any context or any opportunity for any originality or grace.
There's
What was it?
literally a
There's
whole.
one
Sorry.
Oh, there was one that was something about how it's not even good to hate watch because it's so bad.
I'm going through some of these more Google reviews, and there's actually a
Mm.
lot of Trumpers who saw this movie are giving it bad reviews because it made fun of Donald Trump. Could you imagine just going to see this horrible movie, and just because of one little Donald Trump joke, it just becomes that much worse for you?
hmm
God.
It's kind of a shame too. There's some really like, except for Will Ferrell, there's some people who are like actually decent actors.
John C. Riley.
Yeah, John C. Riley. Did you ever see? It's not even on his top films. That's a shame. Sisters Brothers.
No, I have not.
That came out like just before Holmes and Watson. Like they were almost at the same time,
Oh no.
like a couple of months apart. Sisters Brothers is phenomenal. It has John C. Riley and Joaquin Phoenix in like a 1851 Western setting, and it's phenomenal. Jake Gyllenhaal's in it too. Everyone who's in it is just phenomenal. It does a really great job of sort of capturing that Western movie feel that's sort of idealized, and the cinematography in it is just excellent. It's visually amazing to watch, even if the story's a bit. I don't. It's an original story. It's definitely an original story, but I mean, if you've seen a Western movie, you have a pretty good idea of how it's going to go.
I
But
mean,
I really enjoyed it.
yeah.
That was the movie for me that showed me the same way that now Steve Carell is, that John C. Riley knows how to be an actor, like an actual actor.
Do you think they just spend so much time trying to pay the bills with these movies that they honestly are just trying to get into these like actually good movies that these are more their filler films?
I'm not sure. I For some of them maybe, but I think there was just a perfect storm in that like late aughts era of Will Ferrell comedy where it was the right climate in the US for that kind of a movie. They had the right people together, they had the right writers to do it, and the right, just everything just sort of worked out well enough that they sort of hit gold with it, with Anchorman, Talladega Nights, and all of that. And then they've just spent the last 10, 15 years trying to recapture that and failing each time
Uh,
because they don't have the right cast, or they don't have the right writers to give them the right jokes, or they don't have the right director, and it just falls flat.
it's almost like everybody from behind the scenes went on to do better things, whereas some of them just kind of stayed there
Oh
trying
yeah,
to.
right.
I would dare say they're like the Adam Sandler, Happy Madison films of our generation.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And that's why, John C. Riley and Steve Carell have done so well from themselves, because they've grown, they've shown that they can grow as actors and have done different things.
Of course. Hmm. It's almost like how would I put it? A less rocky Robert Downey Jr. story.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. So, what's the news today, Mr. Newsman? I say with my journalism degree.
Wow. It's been a week.
It's been a week.
I was mentioning to you before the start of the show with Jair Bolsonaro, president of Brazil, how he made this pretty remarkably, like, even for him as someone who is like, he is openly homophobic, you know, just generally openly a pretty horrible person, and this somehow is like surprising even from him. This was on the 1st, so 2 days ago. He said, talking about COVID, and after he was he was confirmed to have tested positive for COVID and was put into quarantine. He said, I knew I was going to catch it someday, as I think unfortunately nearly everyone here is going to catch it eventually. What are you afraid of? Face up to it. I regret the deaths, but people die every day from lots of things. That's life. What the hell?
What a
How can you
Chad.
be so just stupid? That's one of the things that I saw here. I don't even know if I have this one linked up. I remember seeing someone talking about how uh, the whole thing with the coronavirus, it's just math. Eventually, if we want to have total immunity, it's just math. Eventually, enough people are going to have to be infected, or enough people are going to have to die that will either never have immunity, or there's going to be huge sacrifices for it. And it's just like, are you this? I don't. This is one of those things I don't understand it, because these are people who clearly have some concept of understanding about what they're talking about. They've gotten some sort of education. You know, Bolsonaro won a goddamn election, so he's done something.
Yes.
But then they completely fail to make the next leap of the
Logic.
okay, yes, if you want herd immunity just through natural community infection rates, yeah, a lot of people are going to die. Or wait for the vaccine that literally all the world is making.
They said no.
And they said no. And it's so stupid. Like how many different places, like, you can't go 6 hours, at least I can't go 6 hours without seeing another story about how this other company has COVID breakthrough research, or that university has a new vaccine they're testing. It's literally all over the place, because whoever gets to it first is going to be so fucking rich, they're going to be tripping over their gold bars.
Some Scrooge McDuck money.
Seriously.
I just don't think people realize how a disease works. And that
They don't. They actually don't.
if a whole bunch of people die, or even if a whole bunch of people are sick, it's still not going to fully recover the economy because there's a whole bunch of missing jobs there. So don't even say it's about the economy.
Yep.
And I think that's also a big insult to everybody who's lost a loved one during all this.
It absolutely is. More people, more Americans have died from COVID now than from the entirety of World War II.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Holy
Like,
shit.
the US came in at the tail end of World War II, and we absolutely had some casualties. But casualties US. Okay, so maybe it's not quite that. There was some, maybe I'm thinking of the wrong war, but there was some statistic that I heard that had to do with the number of deaths as a result of the casualties from it. And it's just like, these people have no idea. The other one was comparing it to 9/11, how it's like a 9/11 literally every week in the US with the number of people dying.
Yes. Avoidable deaths.
And avoidable deaths, and these people can't grasp how that actually is a thing. It's ridiculous.
You know, I think there's a lot of people who just don't want to take responsibility because that means
They don't. They absolutely don't.
Yeah.
Especially if you're the kind of person who's been very publicly not wearing a mask for the last 4 months. For that kind of a person to now come around and say that they were wrong, they would have to, at the same time, be admitting that for the last 4 months, they were exposing themselves and their loved ones to a deadly disease. And that's the kind of responsibility that they're just never going to accept.
No. Because that makes them think they're a bad person.
Yeah, because they are. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, this is me going on a little bit about my philosophies towards everything, but I noticed people are really hung up with believing they're a good person lately. Like, everybody wants to believe they are a fucking saint nowadays, which is bullshit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I consider myself the most evil motherfucker I know, but that's because I live in my own head and I know like all my impure thoughts and I don't know what everybody else's impure thoughts are. And it's just really fucked up that people are so willing to like live in a denial and an illusion just to so they can sleep better at night that they really what was it? There was a fucking I was reading the Tao Te Ching the other night and there was this quote that just really resonated with me. It was like everything we know as good then becomes evil. And I'm like, hell yeah.
Hmm. But then the week's not over.
Oh god.
So we had a whole bunch of new updates this week with the uh, Epstein case,
Yes.
specifically as it relates to Ghislaine Maxwell. And there's apparently now a number of official documents that have been released officially by the prosecutors and lawyers who are all involved with this process that have specifically named some very substantial individuals, including Bill Clinton. I mean, there was a whole list of them, but Bill Clinton was one of the big ones. And one of these documents apparently has confirmed Prince Andrew's, uh, at the very least, involvement with Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell and all of this. And the big headline that I was seeing is that apparently one of these documents seems to say that Prince Andrew, I mean, all of these headlines are garbage. He apparently raped a girl. You know,
Okay.
this is part of this whole sexual trafficking thing that he was apparently involved with it in some case. He had sex with a minor, and because minors can't consent, that is therefore rape.
Bad.
Hmm. So this is. See if I can get the actual details here real quick. So these papers were released after a judge rejected um, a request by Maxwell's lawyers to keep them secret. They are apparently redacted to an extent, but poorly. There was a number of sections in the paper that were redacted, but they were um, only like written over. What was it? There's like two steps to redacting like a digital document, where one, you have to actually physically cover the thing with, if it's like a physical paper, you black out over it. But because stuff is printed and there are impressions that go into the papers because of that, you then also have to either scan or take some second step to make sure that the debossing, the physical etching and the imprints of the letters can't then be visible. And apparently in a lot of these documents that didn't happen, and you can still clearly enough see what was blacked out over,
Do you think that was an
including
inside
some people's
job
names.
just because someone was feeling pretty cool that day or just
I
incompetence?
you know Incompetence is usually a pretty safe bet to lean on, so
Oh,
that's what I would go with.
okay.
There's been, there was a pretty, for me at least, interesting post that I saw where it was, there's a lot of, for lack of a better word, conspiracy like talk going around right now with the whole Epstein case. I mean, the whole Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself thing is essentially at this point a conspiracy theory in the strictest sense of the definition. I think it's a pretty likely one, and it would make a lot of sense, but there is no evidence that he did kill himself because, and then the argument is, of course, well, of course there's not, because that's what they want you to think. But when you put it in, frame it into context of, typical conspiracy theories, if this was like a QAnon person saying this kind of stuff, no one would accept it because of, that's the nature of a conspiracy theory, is that it is in itself able to prevent, holes from being poked in it. That's what makes a conspiracy theory good. With this one, I think there's a lot of this that is just comes down to incompetence at a lot of different levels. And maybe there are people who are exploiting that incompetence, but some extent of it is going to just be people being dumb.
Okay, that's a fair assessment, but I don't know. The conspiracy theorist in me got triggered by that and thought immediately someone was trying to leak this information without, fully redacting it.
Hmm.
I don't know. This whole Maxwell and Epstein case stuff is so fucking scary.
It definitely is. One
It's
of the craziest parts about this for me is the fact that apparently Ghislaine Maxwell's father had direct ties to Mossad, which let me see if I can. When I get the countries right here, that would be unfortunate if I messed that one up. So Mossad. Ugh, I want the organization, not a bunch of people. It's an intelligence organization. Um, I probably have this spelled wrong. So, Mossad is the National Intelligence Agency of Israel.
okay.
I had it spelled wrong. There is pretty clear evidence at this point that Maxwell's father had direct ties to Mossad, and one of the more likely explanations for the entire Maxwell Epstein everything is that Mossad was using this pre-existing child trafficking, sexual slavery, rape organization as a front to get dirt and information from important political figures around the world to then gain leverage over them. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. It sounds like the kind of thing an intelligence agency like that would do. We know for a fact that Maxwell's father had contact with Mossad. We don't know if he was an agent for them or at all in relation to them, but it's pretty well established at this point that there was some contact there. We know Epstein and Maxwell ran this child slavery ring, so it's not that big of a leap to go at that point. We have pretty definitive evidence that starts to point in that direction.
Of course.
Yeah. So, not great. Um, let's see if I can find my links again. So yeah, Prince Andrew is pretty heavily implicated in this.
You think?
Mm-hmm. Where was it?
The real question is, do you think they will go international with this case, or do you think they'll just try to stay in the US for more power?
I really don't know.
Because there's like a give and take to each of that, and the problem is how much you're willing to trust foreign governments to do their part.
Right. I mean, do we really think that the actual Queen of England is going to in any way prosecute her own son?
No.
I mean, exactly. But at the same time, is she ever going to send him out of the country? Also, no. They'll just keep him in Buckingham Palace until he dies, if that's what it takes.
Well, until she dies, also possibly.
Well, or her. Either way,
Yeah.
I would like to think, she would do the right thing or something like this, but
Hell no.
I don't know. It's really hard to say though. Like if it was any other royal family, I would say absolutely no way. There's a 0% chance. But the British royal family is like literally ancient and very different because of that. I feel like at a certain point, if the evidence was, definitive enough, she would probably have to, because maintaining the image of the royal family by basically exiling one of their own that's been proven to, be doing these atrocities would be better for the image of the royal family rather than trying to hide it.
Fair enough.
And I mean, the royal family also already has a very, I'm not sure what the right word for it is. They don't have as nearly as strong of a position within the British government as they used to. The king or queen used to have absolute power, and that's not even close to true anymore.
Oh no, they're
The
just there for
queen had it.
looks.
They are. The queen had a chance with the whole Brexit thing to, sort of perfectly legally but also at the same time, uh, in a first use of this kind of power to actually do something about Brexit, and instead chose to take a hands-off approach, because if the monarchy was to decide that they wanted to exercise the power that they have, that would be pretty huge, and that would turn a large number of people against them. One, you're turning all of half of your country against you on principle because you're siding against them either way you go. And then two, you're also turning a lot of people against you on a fundamental basis by exercising any power at all. You know, there's plenty of people who don't want to go back to before Britain. I don't remember what it was. Whatever Britain's founding document is for them having a prime minister and parliament and all that garbage.
Very true.
So yeah, it's a very complicated situation given that they don't have the power that a monarchy normally would have, or at least that you would think they would have.
I just think it's, I don't know, it's so fucked.
Yeah, it's really messed up.
Like, I don't know. I feel you can. They should keep this really, really tight until they can set a legal precedent, and then they can start shifting it over to other courts. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah. That being said, I saw a really fucked up meme today about it was Epstein's private island where all this bad shit was going down, and it
Yes.
says you can live here with no electricity for a full year and get $1 million. Would you do it? Yeah.
There was one that I heard. There was some quote from Prince Andrew about how he doesn't sweat or some garbage, some medical condition where he doesn't sweat. And it's kind of turned into a bit of a copy pasta at this point.
Oh,
Someone was talking about how they quoted that, and apparently there's some part about the Virgin Megastore, you know, the company Virgin that's I think going under right now. Actually, they had to sell their airline. And somebody made the comment about how the Virgin Megastore is what Epstein called it too.
oh God, that's terrible. What do you think even drives people to fucking want to fuck a kid?
I don't know. I think I'm sure a lot of it has to be related to, you know, unresolved mental problems fundamentally.
That could be it. It's just, yeah. I'm going to speak this very frankly, and I hope someone gets offended when I say this because it just proves my point about what I'm about to say. But children absolutely disgust me on a physical level.
Mm-hmm.
Like, anatomy wise, I look at a child and I'm like, you need to go back in the fucking oven, bucko. You are not done baking. My little brother's at the age where I think puberty is right around the corner. And every time I see him, his proportions are getting more and more off because he's going through those growth spurts. And I
Right.
think to myself, put him, like, we need a taffy puller or something to just make this kid look right.
Get him on the rack.
Get him on the rack, fill him with 20 cc's of protein so he can get that muscle that he needs.
Oh no, I meant like the torture rack.
Oh, that works too.
The one where it stretches you.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Because that wasn't barbaric.
Not at all.
No. I was thinking more of the taffy puller from Willy Wonka.
Oh well, I mean it's basically the same thing. One's just
One's
in
more
a
fun.
capitalist candy coated veneer.
What else has happened today? In this week?
Oh boy. So apparently Trump suggested delaying the 2020 election.
That's what I was waiting for. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
It's like, oh my God. And this tweet is like, oh, I'm just going to read this. This is from Trump. He actually tweeted this with universal mail in voting, not absentee voting, which is good. 2020 will be the most inaccurate and fraudulent election in history.
What the hell is the difference between absentee and mail-in voting?
Literally nothing. Nothing at all.
Nothing. Does one go into a different box that like the Dems have already secured for their conspiracies?
Yeah. One piece I love here in this BBC article for it is that after they showed this tweet, they say he suggested without providing evidence that mail-in voting, as it is known in the US, would be susceptible to foreign interference. I want every time someone talks about something he says to have that little comment inserted in there, just Trump suggested without providing evidence blank for everything, because it will always apply.
Did you hear about the border wall?
What about it?
Apparently, the hurricane going on near Texas right now pushed it over.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt that at all.
And then someone says maybe Trump doesn't like the U.S. Postal Service because unlike them, unlike him, they actually deliver.
Man,
Yeah, that's a burn.
I can't wait for us to have a president that actually supports the postal service properly. Oh man.
You mean that thing that's really important to American democracy?
Yeah.
Because it's almost like having a public um, mail service provides us freedom of speech to contact our fellow man in a way that is not provided by a giant fucking business that stoops into our text messages and reads that I want to buy a blender and starts putting Amazon advertisements on all my fucking social media stuff about blenders.
Yep.
Sometimes when I'm bored and I'm alone, I whisper into my phone that Bing is the better search engine.
You know that's a lie.
I know it's a lie, but I know it makes Google fucking pissed.
That's one of I will never understand an app company that decides that, we want to integrate a search engine into our app. Let's go with Bing. That'll make people happy.
They do Bing for hipster points.
It just doesn't make sense to me. Let me I have a new phone right now. I think I mentioned this, but I have a new phone, and I was shocked to find that in the default browser for it, they have default presets for all of the major, search engines, Google, Yahoo, and Bing, but they order it Bing first, then Google, and then Yahoo.
Can you tell
For
who
some
has?
reason.
Can you tell which company owns a majority stock?
Well, I think they just did it alphabetically,
That
but I
could be
don't
it.
know why. It's still stupid. No one wants to use Bing. Why did you include it in the first place?
Because Bing
It's the
search
same
is
way
done.
with games that open up, like if they have a link embedded in them that goes to like a browser. I hate when they like embed the browser in their app. Like just copy and paste it into my default browser. You already have access to my computer. You can do this. Just copy and paste it into my browser and let me look at it in an actual browser window instead of this garbage that you incorporated into your app for no reason.
Microsoft trying to get that monopoly.
Apparently.
Hey, if anybody's going to search your search date on your personal data, you might as well have it just be one company.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, what's your opinion on the COVID notification thing they added to our phones?
What is this exactly?
So,
I believe I've heard of this. I just want to make sure.
yeah, I looked it up on my phone. I have it on my phone. It's not on. I don't know if I'm going to turn it on or not. But it's a exposure notification that if someone gets COVID that you've been near, like your phones have been near each other, they
Mhm.
alert you to tell you to like clean yourself, get help. You might have been
Right.
exposed. Do what you need.
I there's two ways to look. Like one, I get the intent behind it,
Yeah, I do
and I
too.
think that there is benefit in using something like that in a background capacity to assist, like I don't want to say law enforcement, but like the CDC if they're trying to track cases. I think there's a clear benefit to have making sure that they have access to that information so that they can, with pretty absolute certainty, see exactly where someone was at any given moment before, during, and after they might have had a case of this. On the other side of it, it's a big privacy problem. I mean, I know that Google and whoever already has access to that information about me, but knowing that they are then giving, I don't want to say giving, but distributing in any way that information to others without, and I guess you have to turn it on, so that's your consent to it, but
Yeah.
that's what gives me pause on it. And then there's also the concern that I would have where it might just make people lazy, where they turn it on and because they think, oh, now I'll know if I come in contact with anyone, they'll just stop taking precautions for the rest of, the
The
until they get a notification, and then
yeah.
they'll start to act like it's serious. And that's, I think, really dangerous. I think people often underestimate how lazy people are and how they would use that as an excuse to, like, not wash their hands or not keep a mask on. Like, oh, I'm not being notified that someone near me has COVID. I don't need a mask. I'll be fine.
Yeah. For me, it's like it's a borderline HIPAA violation,
Mm,
but at the same time, you gotta consent to it, and it's like it's a risk versus reward because
right.
when does the HIPAA violation start and where does it like consent begin? Is it purely like if you consent to this, is this purely COVID-19 related, nothing else? Or
Right.
do you just accidentally open up your whole medical history to Google? And then they just sell it to insurance companies and they know what to charge you for your annual insurance rates.
Yeah, and I guess that's the other thing is how do they confirm who actually has COVID or not, or who has been exposed to COVID or not?
That's a good question.
These are things I don't have the answers for. I have no idea which way it goes. It's just things I have concerns about.
Yeah, this is the ethics discussion of something like that.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So the other thing that I thought was really interesting this week, and a lot of people are talking about Trump's tweet as a distractionary technique to try and pull attention away from this.
Yeah.
But the US GDP, as a measure of its percentage, took the largest drop in the last quarter ever,
Yes, I saw that.
like of all history, which
Makes
is
me,
kind of crazy.
how the fuck did that happen?
33%.
That's a third
That's a third.
of our gross domestic product. Do we have to
Just
explain what
gone.
a gross domestic product is for the kids in the audience?
I would hope not.
I feel
But
like people who champion
let me just
economics don't
pull up,
understand what the fuck it is, though.
let me just pull up a very Google search definition for it here.
It's the
So
total.
gross domestic product is a monetary measure of the market value of all the goods and services produced in a specific time period.
So a third of the country's gross domestic product is down. It's almost like people are sick and they aren't filling in jobs, and where productions are going down. Whoa.
Let me see if this is actually up to date here. No, it only goes to 2018. I'm curious to see how it compares to other countries' GDP,
Yeah.
like specifically the UK. But
It's
they don't have their 2020 released yet, so it's hard to tell.
of course. But you know, when
I'm
it's
sure other places are going to have hits to GDP too. I mean, this is very similar to any sort of recession that we had. We had a 5% hit in Q1 because of obvious reasons. This is definitely much more extreme, though.
yeah. Um again, it's mainly because of the pandemic as a whole, but
Right, of course.
yeah. You can't say it's a fucking hoax when the third of the country's resources just went down.
Yeah. But for comparison, the housing crisis in 2008
Yeah.
only resulted in a peak quarterly GDP loss of 8%. So this is 4 times worse economically than the housing crisis.
4 times worse, you say.
4 times worse.
Four
Yep.
times worse. I want to say that out loud. You know, some people don't even believe that housing crisis was that big of a deal.
It doesn't make sense. I don't get how people can think that.
I know.
Just sheer ignorance, I guess.
I remember being affected by it pretty damn hard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like my stepmom was laid off.
Hmm.
My dad was pulling a lot of extra hours just to put food on the table. It was fucked. I was like 12.
I'm pretty sure that my parents did a pretty good job of sort of hiding it from me, but looking back on it, there's a lot of things that I've noticed that stood out in hindsight.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something our generation. I think my whole like problem with money and why I'm so very hoarding it like a dragon as a person that
Mm.
is based off having lived through that at such an impressionable age.
Right, yeah, I agree.
And I hoard money like a fucking dragon. Brr. But four times as worse, you say?
Yep. I mean, and that isn't to say that COVID is economically 4 times worse than the housing crisis was.
No.
There's a lot of different factors in it, and there's certainly an argument to be made that GDP is not the be all end all for measuring a nation's economic strength,
No, it's the
but
stock market.
it is, yeah, right. It's very startling,
Oh, it is.
especially in an election year. Like Trump, I can't see how Trump isn't shitting himself at this.
He probably is. In all honesty, that's why he's wanting to delay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And think about, the situations with the 2008 economic crisis. We had the housing crisis. Bush couldn't run for re-election again. Obama came in and he cleaned up house.
And he was going against John McCain.
Yeah. I
McCain,
often McCain is interesting. McCain, the second he picked up Palin, he lost the presidency.
it's really true.
Hmm.
Do you ever wonder what a John McCain presidency would have been like?
I really do. I it's one of those things that's just our politics have gotten so skewed that, like me and you, people who are like actually liberals and pretty far left, are like, man, I wonder what a John McCain presidency would be. Wouldn't that be great?
God. I
Like,
don't know if
because
I'm. Oh,
he was absolutely a conservative.
yeah.
I probably wouldn't agree with a single policy decision that he would make, but I at least knew that he gave a shit about the US and not his own pockets.
I don't know if I would always
But
count
he
myself as
was
a.
a hawk. He was absolutely a hawk. And given the US involvement overseas at that point, that could have turned really badly.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if I would label myself a liberal, though.
I mean, given on the US political spectrum of liberal or conservative, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I mean, for a U.S. citizen, I'm probably more liberal than a lot of them. But
Right.
I mean, like, if you're talking about the grand scheme of the whole fucking political compass,
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm pretty smack dab in the fucking middle.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah.
I would say the majority of liberals in the US are probably middle or middle right,
Yeah,
just because of how skewed it is.
I've yet to see an actual fucking. Okay, strike that. I know one communist. You know
Yeah,
exactly who I'm talking
I, I
about.
I do, yes. Yeah. I think that there's definitely some movement in the US going, clawing its way back towards a more traditional view of what a center-minded politically speaking person is,
Yeah.
especially now that we have, like Bernie Sanders has huge support in the US and he is definitely left of center.
Oh yeah. No, he's fucking right there in the middle of the left.
So there's definitely a substantial number of people in the US who fall into that, but the vast majority are, yeah, center right.
I've seen it so much from conservatives that they are more scared of a socialist than a communist at the moment, which is really fucked up.
It's so messed up. It just goes to show how good the Republican GOP propaganda machine is.
You mean Fox News?
Yes.
It's all
Uh,
fucking Fox News.
Fox, fucking Breitbart. whatever garbage of the week.
It's I don't
Yeah.
know. I want to like again. I can understand the reporters of Fox News are actual journalists, but it's the fucking news commentary where they make the opinions for you.
Yeah.
That's where I start losing it with Fox News. There's this new thing I've been liking to do with a lot of the conservatives who don't want to wear a mask at our store. Um, where they get really offended if you offer them a mask. So whenever there's someone who walks in, we have to offer them a mask because fucking decent people. Um,
Yeah.
I always say to one of my employees, "Go offer that snowflake a mask."
It's true.
Yeah, they're fucking snowflakes. I kind of want to use their own terms against them because I think it's fucking funny.
Mm-hmm.
I've been
It,
saying
it
fuck a
it
lot.
it is. I mean, if you use their rhetoric, it's highly effective. That's what they do. That's the reason that there's a lot of these symbols that used to not be politically charged at all that are now like alt-right garbage. It's because they've very intentionally taken them and turned them into that.
R.I.P. Peppy.
Or RIP Pepe. Yeah. And just, turn it back on them.
Yeah.
Was one of the things I was sort of thinking about with this whole Russian bounties on US soldiers thing. Now that Trump has admitted that he knew about them and has known about them, um, like, where are the Benghazi people? Their whole thing was the loss of American lives due to negligence on the hands of our administration. What the hell? Where are they now?
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up.
And I also want to preference this because I feel like we shit on conservatives a lot, but if you have like an actual respectable conservative opinion and you're not just spouting Fox News rhetoric, I will respect you.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I've met some cool guys who are Blue Lives Matter and they're like, guys with parents in the cop like as police officers, so that's understandable.
Yep.
Yeah. There's no exclusivity to that, but oh, you want to hear what my new favorite meme is to describe all lives matter?
What's that?
Imagine you're having sex with a girl, right?
Yeah.
And you say something along the lines of like, "Oh yeah, you like this dick, right?" And then she just stops in the moment and says, "All dicks matter."
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Anybody who tries to play that, I don't even want to call it an argument, but anybody who tries to say that all lives matter doesn't either understand what Black Lives Matter means or is choosing to spread disinformation willfully.
Yeah. And I can understand Blue Lives Matter because of how fucked cops get sometimes, especially in terms of having, PTSD and whatnot. I think, like, the whole civil servant system needs to be redone as a whole
Mm-hmm.
because, quite frankly, it's fucked. But at the same
I
time,
did see a really cool piece out of Montreal, somewhere in Canada, where they had actually started to pass legislation that was transitioning the roles that the police would play when it came to dealing with mental patients and suicide and those sorts of things, and actually transition them over to people who are closer to specialists on those sorts of things to actually handle them right.
yeah,
It's just like, yeah, that's what we need.
I honestly feel like police officers should have seasons where they go back to the academy to learn specialties like that.
You would think so. You'd think that would be the kind of continued education that police officers would have to take in order to continue to advance through their ranks,
Yeah.
but instead they get military tactics training.
Yeah, which is weird because the fucking military has stuff like that for it to go up in rank,
Mm-hmm.
but not our fucking boys in blue.
No. And a huge part of it is because that's why a lot of people became cops.
Yeah.
After 9/11, the police forces were highly militarized, and now they use that as marketing.
Yeah.
Look at all our cool toys we have.
Fuck. Dude, did you ever hear about that? They're like truancy officers in LA that spent some of their budget on fucking grenade launchers.
I don't doubt it at all.
Yeah. And like whatever, if you want to feel safe behind a gun, that's cool. But there should also be time for officers to learn. And they should be educated. There's always that joke about the fat pig on the donut shop watching criminals pass by, and there's a
Hmm.
fucking reason behind it. And when you have such a large budget, you can very easily make that not a thing, and you could actually make things so much better than they actually are. But
Hmm.
instead, you pretty much advertise cops like the military, and people think they go in and they're set for life now.
Yep. One of the things that I've never really understood, like, okay,
Yeah,
a lot of the, I don't want to say tools, the weapons and equipment that police officers have, someone in some position need. You can't just get rid of every gun that a police station has and
no,
every, piece of equipment, because terrorist attacks, rare as they are, do happen. And there needs to be people in place with the right training and the right equipment to handle that.
of course.
But that is almost never going to be a cop either walking a beat or out just on a daily routine position, because you can be damned sure that the first thing that's going to happen, if, like, for one, if any individual cop actually is the one who comes across a situation like that, 99 times out of 100, I'm sure any sort of situation like that is called in over 911, where somebody says, hey, this thing is happening, and then they have to dispatch the right people.
Yes.
If it's in that case, you just ditch patch the people who are trained to do the job, to de-escalate the situation, to actually handle, a terrorist attack or a hostage situation. Fill in the blank for what it is. But say in that 1 out of 100 chance that a cop is actually the one who comes across this and is calling it in, you can be damn sure the first thing that's going to happen is they're going to call for backup. So there is no reason to have this kind of equipment in the hands of these kinds of people.
No.
Just doesn't make sense.
Another thing for me is just I know that a lot of people are asking less weapons out of the police and less brute force out of the police makes people feel insecure about the police, like they're not going to survive without their guns. But I also think that's what the training is for.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. Do you know what I also think we should do for the officers?
What's that?
I really think there should be some form of martial arts training that they undergo through in the academy
They
because,
do. They absolutely do.
yeah,
They have hand-to-hand combat training that they're supposed to do. Yeah, I remember at Olivet. Olivet had a pretty strong, like, I don't even know
crim-
what we'd call it, just criminal justice program. Let's call
yeah,
it that. Where you get a degree in criminal justice, and you don't necessarily need that to go to an academy, but it really helps a lot, and it's a good way of showing your aptitude and your dedication to something like the force.
yeah,
And actual, training in hand-to-hand combat was one of the things that they did. I remember that was one of their, I think, ILT courses that they would have,
that's really
would
cool.
be a, like 3-week period where that's all they would do. They would talk about things, they would demonstrate things, and they would go through it.
I am a prop proponent of everybody learning some form of martial arts
Hmm.
because honestly, the whole cops with a gun situation, I think Rick and Morty did a good joke on it. Suicide by cop, where a kid ran at a cop and they just
Yeah.
shot him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something to just at least incentivize cops not to use the bullets as much. You know, I mean, if you're being attacked by some cokehead, I'm pretty sure some form of Brazilian jiu-jitsu grappling and put him on the ground where he's going to be very confused and you know what you're doing will go a lot further than just shooting some dude in point blank or threatening him with a gun.
Yep. Have you seen the Jontron video they did about that?
No.
This was a couple months ago, I want to say. 7 months ago. So, been last winter. He did a video about a training video called "Surviving Edged Weapons." That is entirely that. It's like sort of a parody. The original video is sort of a parody,
Yeah.
but it's pretty hilarious to watch through. But they talk about exactly that, about how, um, there's a guy coming at you with a knife, and the cop has a gun or a taser, and it's just like the guy tries to, they did this skit with John having the gun and some guys trying to run at him with a knife, and he just keeps tasering the guy when he's still like 10 feet away every
Yeah.
time, and he never gets close.
I don't know. I'm sure we're missing a lot of details because we're not cops, but
Yeah, I don't think we're ever, not in the US at least, we're never going to be able to get to the point in the US where cops won't have guns.
oh no,
That's
I
just the unfortunate reality of the situation.
not when everybody's allowed to have a gun, you know?
Exactly.
And I'm not saying take away the guns, I'm just saying learn to handle them properly.
Right. And I think that's the thing, is that this is just, it's purely a training problem for one, where people either aren't trained right or aren't trained enough. And then there's the issue of oversight after the fact, where if a cop is cited for, you know, just discharging their weapon at all, if they want to move to another precinct, they should have to go through the process like anyone else of explaining why they discharged their weapon. And from that, you know, be able to justify it to the next department that's employing them.
Yeah.
You shouldn't just be able to hop from one precinct to another
You mean avoiding
without any sort of
responsibility?
questioning process. Yeah. Because that's what they do. They just ship these guys around.
Yeah. And that's
There's an article of part of a Freedom of Information request from the New York Police Department that was talking about the number of reports and complaints that were issued on like a per officer basis. And some of these guys have dozens of complaints against them for like excessive force use. And practically nothing happens.
yeah, because they'll ship them away where they can be someone else's problem.
Mm-hmm. Or they just do nothing in the first place.
I remember I was watching this video. It was about the rise of the Punisher in the U.S. Police armed forces, where a lot of cops have idolized the ideology of the Punisher, and it made me realize how much there's like this divide between officers who know what they're doing and are actually trying to make things better, and people who are there to be fucking vigilantes that get paid.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And again, I don't know. I feel like the theme of responsibility has been coming up a lot this episode.
Yeah. And it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a lot of what we have in the world right now is people who want to feel like they're responsible at any cost, even they want to say they're responsible without actually demonstrating it.
Yes. I get that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Especially being an essential worker, where everybody's panicking and asking me for things I cannot do because corporate won't let me do them.
Yep.
Oh, you
So
want?
one thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go.
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to tell a little aside about my job for a second, but if you want to continue.
I was actually going to change topic, so go ahead.
Okay. So last night at work, we got this phone call, right?
Mhm.
Apparently over the local news in like Grand Rapids where I'm living, they've announced that our grocery store is going to do free COVID-19 testing with an appointment. Guess who they didn't tell?
Anyone who works there?
Not me. I'm the night
Gee,
manager.
that's kind of crazy.
So people were calling me as like, "Hey, how do I schedule for an appointment?" And I'm like, "When are we doing appointments? When is this becoming a thing?" Like, that was such a shit show last night. And I pretty much told anybody who would answer the phone, tell them to call back tomorrow, because literally, I checked through my emails, nothing from corporate, fucking nothing from my boss, nothing telling me we were doing COVID-19 testing. It was It was terrible, man. I mean, I felt so bad because there were like panicking people who wanted to get tested.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, just a casual reminder to anyone: if you have an onion, throw it out because there's been a massive recall in the U.S. for onions. Uh, Apparently, there's a huge salmonella outbreak that has been linked to a specific company's onions. But given that, a lot of people buy onions loose, not in packaging,
Yeah.
there's not a good way of knowing where your onion actually came from. So if you have an onion, make sure that you don't.
Hmm. I feel like they just lost a ton of money.
I don't know. That's one of the things I've always wondered when it comes to like a recall for produce, because they happen pretty frequently, just salmonella in general.
Yeah.
Um, do they? It's not like
There's.
grocery stores can buy their onions from somewhere else.
I
They
think.
are the onions.
I think they do get their next load free, as like a cover up.
Right. They would definitely have to, but that's probably very little,
Yeah.
relatively speaking. You might have a few weeks of, basically no profits, but on the bigger scale of it, it's going to be the stores themselves that are going to have problems actually selling these kinds of things after. This current situation is apparently linked to Thompson International. They are recalling all of their onions of all colors and in all 50 states.
That's really unfortunate. The damage
About
has only
four,
begun.
There's been about 400 confirmed cases of salmonella in the U.S., and this is where they believe it is.
Hmm. Does not sound like Funyun.
Mm, no, this is not the salty snack.
I'm sorry. I had to. When I worked at a pizza place, I had all these onion puns, and now I'm just uh, slowly going through my collection of punions throughout this little segment.
Mhm.
Yes, you better bet
So
on it.
some of these names are pretty dumb
What's
for
up?
these onion. So the main onion company is Thompson,
Yeah.
and the onions were sold under the brands of Thompson Premium, Tender Loving Care, TLC Thompson International, El Competitor,
El
Hartley,
competitor.
Hartley's Best, Onions 52, Majestic, Imperial Fresh, Kroger, and Utah Onions and Food Lion.
None of those are in my grocery store.
Apparently, Michigan has had 23 confirmed cases of
Nice.
salmonella.
Nice.
So it's on the higher side, actually, compared to like California when you compare population.
Hmm.
We're just bad at dealing with disease, I guess.
Michigan in general, yes.
Yeah.
Michigan is really weird because like the middle of the state is nothing but cornfields, but as you get to the
Mhm.
lakeshore, it's like super dense cities.
Yep. Pretty much.
And
And
it's
then we stuck our capital in the middle of the state
cuz
for
why
no
not?
reason.
Wasn't it because Detroit was like too susceptible to Canadian attacks?
No, I don't think so. Not at that point.
I don't
They
remember.
were going to put it in Marshall. That
They
was one of the first proposed locations for it.
Olivet would have been such a different place.
It would have been. It literally would have been. They were talking about putting the capital in Marshall, and then Olivet would have basically been MSU.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how it would have worked out. But instead, they stuck it in Lansing. Probably, I don't know the politics of it, but I'm sure there was some, you know, 1800s politics that dictated it.
Well, you see, a Mr. Michigan State wanted it to
Yeah.
happen. And he said, I do declare we should build a college here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What else do I got here? Okay. Have you heard about the new law that China passed where they I don't remember what it's called. It has to do with a security thing as it relates to Hong Kong.
No.
So China passed a new law. This was about a month ago that changed how they could extradite people from Hong Kong into mainland China. Previously, they could not do that. If someone was arrested in Hong Kong, they had to keep them in Hong Kong, prosecute them there, try them there, punish them there, all of that. With the new law, they can then extradite people from Hong Kong into mainland China, which is a huge safety issue because,
You don't say.
the threat of it is that someone's arrested in Hong Kong, they ship them to China, and then they disappear, especially if they're, like a political dissident. That was one of the things that made Hong Kong so distinct, is that they were politically very different from China, and they had a huge number of people who were very openly critical of the Chinese government. And this law directly threatens that. So the other part of it that was kind of huge is that they are starting to target people internationally. And there's been a couple of people now who are living outside of Hong Kong, in other countries, including people who are no longer citizens of Hong Kong, that have now had arrest warrants put out in their name by the Chinese government through Hong Kong because they were or are Chinese or citizens of Hong Kong. One of them in particular was a person who's living in the US right now that was a citizen of Hong Kong about 25 years ago, from what I remember. But at this point today, he is only exclusively a U.S. citizen living in the United States, and China has issued an arrest warrant for him because of this new law.
Jeez.
And it's just like so messed up. If literally, with the way that this is, if this happens, it means that China can issue an arrest warrant for anyone in any country around the world.
Yeah, that's a little too much power.
It's messed up. So far, all the people who have been had warrants put out for them have gotten, pretty much some sort of guarantee of security from the governments of the countries they're currently living in, because I mean, there's not really any country in the world that's going to just like go, oh yeah, we'll just kick one of our citizens out real quick.
So they pulled the Snowden.
Send good old Z Chi Pooh Bear around the back, and we'll give him a quickie too while we're at it.
Oh, jeez.
I can't even remember the guy's name. I really don't care though.
Isn't he the guy that got super offended by Winnie the Pooh?
Yes, he is.
God,
Winnie the Pooh was effectively banned in China because of it.
that's so funny to me.
Hmm? I think it's great.
Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, not too
It's
popular
one of
with.
those things where, if he had just like let it happen and not said anything about it, no one would think about it. No one would care. But because he's made it so clear that it bothers him, people are specifically doing it more now.
Of course. I mean, it's like the first rule of bullying. You don't say you're feeling bad.
Yep. And they know it gets to you.
Yeah. Then you become a victim. I think it reminds me. Like, I have a friend who bullies Garth Brooks on Instagram. The only reason he did it once is for a joke, and then Garth Brooks banned him, and now he just keeps making all these throwaway accounts just to bully Garth Brooks.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I admire his dedication. And I remember each time he makes up some username specifically aimed at Garth Brooks, like
Mm.
Garth Brooks. I don't know. He accused Garth Brooks of hanging out with Epstein once, and that one got like banned on the first day. No comment. It was just banned right away.
Yeah. I'm not too surprised. I'd be more surprised if they didn't, honestly.
Oh yeah, Garth Brooks. I don't know. He's made a very powerless enemy.
Yeah, exactly. There's been a thing going around right now in Siege where notable content creators are having their accounts not even hacked, but like like hacking humans, sort of a thing. Have you heard about that?
No.
Where the idea is that you don't use like software or anything to get around security measures. You just like call the support agencies and count on the people who are running the support to be just really stupid and incompetent. And that's exactly what's happening here. There's been about a dozen notable pro league players and content creators who it seems people called into Ubisoft support pretending to be these people, but like not even doing a good job of it. Just like saying, yes, this such and such account is mine. And they're like, okay, can you provide a receipt that proves that? And then they provide an obviously fake receipt. And they go like, yup, that is a receipt. That's good enough. What do you want? And then they have them turn off two-factor authentication, change the username and password for these accounts, and then the accounts are just theirs. And they can do whatever they want with them.
I remember you tweeting about this or retweeting or something like that. I saw this earlier today. This is what you get for paying your employees
And
minimum
it's
wage.
just like,
What's up? Chiral.
spectacular.
You cut out there, buddy.
Like kind of thing. But at this point, this is just the people who run the support just being stupid and bad at their jobs.
Oh yeah. Again, it's why you don't pay your employees minimum wage.
And apparently it's worse than that because they farm out to some third-party company for the support service.
Oh hell yeah. Let's do it like that. That's smart. I should do that now. Go find some content creator to bully.
What's that?
I said I should do that now. Find a content
yeah,
creator
yeah.
to bully. But who?
It's just so crazy that like some of these people even had specific notes that they asked to have made on their accounts, like as close to a verification as they can,
Yeah.
to say, you know, I am a content creator or I am some sort of a public figure in this community. Just make sure that if anybody contacts you about this account, to not just blindly accept whatever they're saying. Actually check it. There's notes that these people had set up for these kinds of things, and then people just ignore it.
What? But of course.
I can understand, disgruntled employees and that sort of thing, but holy shit. Do the bare minimum of your job.
Nah. Nah. I think that reminds me of the Twitch situation with Trigger Conroy a couple years ago.
I'm just about out here, but I've got a few more.
Okay.
So now that the Mueller investigation is wrapped up with the potential for, the investigation into Russian interference in the U.S. election, apparently, according to a Vox article, the U.S. ambassador to Brazil has reportedly asked Brazilian officials to help with Trump's re-election.
What?
Yeah. So let's see here.
That's a little
According
too
to a
on the
letter-
nose.
A letter from the House Foreign Affairs Committee cites Brazilian news articles that report U.S. Ambassador to Brazil Todd Chapman pressured members of Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro's administration to lower ethanol tariffs in order to support Trump's re-election efforts.
How many foreign governments is that now?
That we know of, for
Yeah.
sure, too.
I was about to say, I wanted to believe that was 3, but I wasn't sure.
I'm sure that there's plenty more that you could argue,
Yeah.
but Russia and now Brazil are, these are pretty definitive.
Wasn't there also Thailand or something like that? The one that he asked to investigate Hunter Biden.
That was Ukraine.
Yeah, okay. So
and
Russia.
that was a whole other thing.
Yeah.
That was completely different. Most of that was misinformation being spread around.
Was it?
Yeah, so from what I remember in that, the whole thing was that Hunter Biden apparently had some relationship with a company in the Ukraine, and the argument was that Biden had pressured the former prosecutor out and pushed for him to be replaced. But the former prosecutor was replaced because the old one wasn't doing his job. The old one was refusing to do any sort of an investigation into press charges into this matter. Um, and it was all like, as soon as you like actually scraped through the barest minimum of headlines that were floating around, the whole thing just doesn't make sense at all.
So what you're saying is he believed a fake news story and it led to his impeachment.
I don't even know about that. I would say I mean, they probably made it.
Yeah.
They made the fake news very intentionally.
I wasn't sure, but that just seemed like a little ironic. It's so weird to think that the impeachment is gone. Like that was such a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I remember covering that at the radio station, and every time you mentioned it, we would get like so much flack for even talking about it. It was
Mm-hmm.
one of those things that you just don't mention because it would stir up these angry, angry people.
Yep.
And there was also that rumor that because he was falsely impeached, that meant we get another 4 years of Trump for free. Do you remember that one?
Sorry, what was that you were cutting out?
Oh. There was a rumor that was started that was like because they impeached Trump for no good reason, he gets to rerun for full new set terms, which is not how that works.
That's not at all how it works. I don't remember that actually.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. Like it was a big thing up here in Grand Rapids. There was a guy with a southern accent telling me something about that, saying like, "You ready for a whole another 8 years of Trump?" He was like
Yeah,
super
that's
happy
not how
about
that
it.
works.
No.
So I've come across a piece here, a Vox article that was linked to that other one. When you hear about I don't even know what the right word for this would be, a new or upcoming scene that is blank core. So like a thing and then core is the name of it.
Yeah.
What does that imply to you?
Well, when I think of the core stuff, I think it's more along the lines that it's very fresh and new, and it has an
Okay.
ideology that it's very strict to, and there's very little like ends or ifs about it. Like with Nightcore, it's very obviously just sped up music,
Yes.
or like hardcore, where the music is very very fast and not sped up, but fast, and heavy, such the
Mm-hmm.
title of hardcore, and such as that.
Right. For me, whenever I see it, there's always an edginess to it.
Yes,
Until now, have you heard of the new trend that is apparently sweeping TikTok and Tumblr
I'm scared.
called cottagecore?
Holy hell, what the fuck was I expecting? Hit me.
Okay, so cottagecore is, do they even have a definition? It is a highly romanticized and idealized art and social media presence that is okay, I'm gonna get to that in a second. It's a very distinct style of presenting things, of like Instagram stories focused on idealizing and romanticizing that sort of like late 1800s, early 1900s aesthetic, pre-electricity, but still sort of Victorian at the tail end of that.
Is this just fucking
Where
Amish?
no, it's very much not Amish.
Okay.
It's like that sort of like post-colonial aesthetic
Okay.
where everything is very, you know, rugged and outdoorsy, but still kind of nice in a way. Nice in the sense of wealthy, like this is how the people who were wealthy in that time period would have lived when they went out to their cottage,
So,
sort of a thing.
so it's more I idolize the bourgeois.
Kind of, but
Okay.
it's all very intentionally skewed towards this not modern aesthetic.
Okay.
But it's all fake apparently. But there's this is the line that caught me off guard here. I hadn't read this far into it yet. This is a person named Jessica, not Jessica, Jessica,
Yes.
Jesca,
Of course.
and she says, "I've always liked baking and cooking and doing what my friends and my family would say is very grandma-like. Even my grandma tells me you're more of a grandmother than I am. There's a word for that too, grandma core."
What the hell?
It's so dumb. Like
Grandma core?
I can appreciate liking the aesthetic of it,
Yeah.
but this is just dumb.
Kind of dumb indeed. Like, have you ever heard of country shipping?
No.
It's essentially like this weird subplot. Like, it's kind of based off the country balls, like the Poland balls. But they turn the country balls from, instead of these little cute little balls that make up stereotypes, into hot anime boys, and they just like ship countries with each other. So you have like American stereotype anime boy dating Russian stereotype anime boy.
Mm,
Yeah,
yes.
which I can't help but feel like history majors like ugh, I feel bad for them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess a part of this for me is I have lived in these places. I know what it's actually like to be out in these kinds of shitholes.
yeah.
There's nothing romantic about it.
I blame more of it
And
on like
seeing people try to twist it into that is just kind of it just feels wrong and
I would say that's
disingenuous.
mainly because of like high school kids who are just aesthetic, like
Hmm.
discovering aesthetics for the first time.
Yeah, probably.
That's the only thing I can think of because high school kids will idolize the weirdest shit that they don't fully understand. And it really just comes from the fact that they don't know any better because they're kids still. So please describe more about this cottagecore to me because I'm kind of super interested now.
This is a rabbit hole. I almost don't want to.
if,
Okay.
if you don't,
What
I will.
separates cottagecore from other nostalgia-based subcultures too is that despite its reverence for stories about and images of heterosexual white people, it's become nearly synonymous with queer people and progressive politics. There are many signifiers. Cottagecore lesbian is now a popular identifier online, while goblincore is a favorite among non-binary people. Frogs are also canonically lesbians. A significant portage of cottagecore accounts on Instagram, Tumblr, and TikTok also include bios with Black Lives Matter or other social justice causes.
That's fine, but holy fuck, I'm seeing
I
this and it's
had to
like
I had to try so hard there to not just break out laughing at Goblin Core. Like, what
Goblin
the hell
Core is
is
where I
this?
lost
Oh,
it.
I have to Google this. What the hell is Goblin Core? Goblin Core is an aesthetic which is a twist on dragon. That doesn't answer anything. Although it is apparently, oh my god, this is disgusting. What is this web? Okay, fandom like.com.
Yeah.
They're a hosting page for lots of different wikis and stuff for like games and subgenres and stuff like that. There is an aesthetics wiki,
Oh,
and it
God.
is the most disgusting thing I have ever seen. It is like the most. I don't know whose aesthetic it is that designed this page, but they need to be they need to stop.
I'm about to jump into it. Wish me luck.
Okay. Goblin Core is an aesthetic which is a twist on Dragon Core. Goblin Core celebrates aspects of nature that most would find ugly or dirty, ranging from animals such as frogs and snails to materials such as moss and mud and plants such as
Oh my god, Chiral. Chiral.
Mushrooms. As a part of this beloved
Chiral. They broke him, ladies and gentlemen. They're breaking his internet.
ugliness is the goblin itself, a malevolent, thieving creature.
I'm sure he's got lots of great stuff. Chiral?
I could appreciate this up until that point.
You were
Up
cutting
until
out
the
like
point where people
bad.
are calling themselves goblins, that's fine. Yes. It's probably for the better.
Yeah, because
This is some dumb shit.
I was talking to the audience the whole time. I'm like, oh my god, they're cutting out his internet. The Goblin Chorus one. I found.
Do I need to like start over?
Please don't, because I've heard like select passages out of it, and it was just too shocking.
Okay, this last part is the stupid part. Like everything up to that, I can understand as it being someone's aesthetic.
Yeah.
But here's the last part. A part of Goblin Core is the desire to collect and hoard small, often shiny objects, affectionately named shinies, by practicing goblins.
Fuck yeah, I'm a goblin. What up, homies? Where are my G's at?
Okay. Now, man, this is an actual rabbit hole.
Dude, I found Crowcore.
I did too. Does it have the does it link to Dumbass Core?
No.
Dumbass Core is an aesthetic created for self-identified dumbasses and is characterized by all things stupid, clumsy, lazy, and inconvenient. Chaos and signs of dumbassery can be found everywhere, and so can spilled foods, chipped fingernails, wet socks, lost wallets, unbrushed hair, disorganized workspaces, etc., which are all examples of the eternal presence of Dumbass Core.
Holy hell, I'm a dumbass corn. I didn't know it.
This is amazing.
I'm crying. Oh my
god. Okay. Fashion. Dumbass Core fashion is generally very casual and comfy, including sweatpants, baggy clothing, stained clothing, and often accompanied by highly fashionable accessories such as smartphones with broken screens. Colors are often associated with Dumbass Core are red, symbolizing the blood shed by a stubbed toe, yellow for your pee because you haven't been drinking enough water, brown for that sauce you spilled on your shirt, black, and gray. Dumbass Core fashion is less about what one wears, but what one does with what one wears, and the general theme is chaos, chaotic, and confusing get-ups, while not necessarily cursed.
Weren't we like a half an hour ago having like this very detailed discussion about the ethics of policing in America?
I am fine with getting rid of that. This is better.
This is fucking amazing. Oh my god. I just found it. I love the picture of it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just two socks, one's wet, one's half wet.
Yeah. Other names: Idiot Core, Stupid Core, Dumb Bitch Core.
Oh my god.
This is so stupid.
It's perfect. What are you talking? Related aesthetics: Bastard Core, Chaos Core, and Surreal Memer.
Oh. All right, where is like the main page for this wiki?
Did you see the images of examples of Dumbass Core?
I did, yes.
The fucking knight with the body pillow and a shotgun is amazing.
Oh my god.
It's Bastard Core.
God. This wiki is extensive. Holy shit.
Who are the fucking 5 contributors who made all this?
They have enough pages, enough different aesthetics to literally have an A to Z list of them.
No.
They have an X. There is a core for X. Xeric. What the hell? Xeric is an aesthetic that relates to things with small amounts of water in them. What is this? This is so bizarre.
Bastard core is the supposed to strike your fight is supposed to strike your fight or flight response. It consists of friendly images along with shock humor, themed captions, or images that seem out of place and or uncomfortable to look at. One could argue Bastard Core is an extension of the cursed images meme. This aesthetic is commonly used by people who refer to themselves as, quote, feral, unquote. Bastard core fashion can easily blend in with other fashion based aesthetics. Common clothes and accessories include ripped jeans and graphic tees, hoodies with strange quotes on them, handmade earrings, and platform shoes or combat boots. Oh my god, this is amazing.
Okay, so there's one that's called SXE Straight Edge, a subculture originated from hardcore punk whose adherents refrain from using alcohol, tobacco, and other recreational drugs in reaction to the excesses of punk subculture. This is a two-paragraph entry with almost nothing on it. It has one comment on it, which is an anonymous user that says straight edge will never die. This is like, I'm at a loss for words as to how stupid this is.
You mean
I feel
how
like we need to
amazing?
I feel like we need to pause here to like legitimately give some of these consideration, because there's literally hundreds of these. And there's got to be some hilarious stuff in here. But I don't have the time to go through it right now.
Should we do an aesthetics wiki special?
I think we're going to have to. Like, you could get a solid hour out of this, no problem.
This is so it, I want to know who created this.
There's an aesthetic core.
Hell, two of the yeah, that is so fucking good. I found anime core.
I don't doubt it.
There's arcade core, baby girl, Barbie core, baroque pop, which I'm pretty sure is quite the difference there. There is just straight up an aesthetic called bitch.
There's one that's called Art Ho.
Arto. Oh god. Who makes these things? Bubble goth?
God, they
That's a
actually
fucking
have
Pokemon.
like I
Wait, okay. There's Bubble Goth, and then there's another one underneath it called Bubble Gum Bitches. Why? Ooh, classic academia. There's a aesthetic. You know what?
kind of awkward to see like in like the list of associated brands. Like, I know some of these brands. Like, I want some of these brands products because they look like good clothes and stuff. But now I don't know. Am I like unaware that I'm joining some of this bullshit by buying from these companies?
You're self-aware about it, so you're light years ahead of everybody else.
I guess that's true. Oh god, they have an incel category.
Hell yeah.
I thought they killed that when they got rid of the subreddit.
So I looked up classic academia, and it's just
Yeah.
like this is the music that classic academia comes under: Bach, Adele, Mumford and Sons, and the Lumineers.
Are you ready for some good stuff here in the? I know. I'm saving this. I am saving this.
We save
Can't
this.
can't spoil it all right now. I'm saving the incel stuff because this is good. This is quality, and I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna resist. Ah, this is.
This is a gold mine.
Oh, I found yours.
What? You found my aesthetic?
I did. Gonna take a guess before I reveal.
Okay, how about we do it for next episode, but send it
Okay,
to me in the
fair,
Discord chat because I'm really
fair.
curious.
Yes, I will. I will message it to you, but I will save it.
I'm scared. Oh, fuck you. Yes.
But I mean, come on, really?
Yes. I love the related aesthetics to this. Holy shit. This is accurate. Okay. Yeah. So next week's episode, we'll be exploring the aesthetics
Mhm.
wiki.
Yes, we absolutely will.
You know who I've been wanting to get on the show now that we have this freedom?
Hmm. Who's
Conroy.
that? Yes.
Do you think Conroy would be interested in joining the aesthetics brigade?
I mean, we can throw it out to him.
Yeah.
I
I'm.
think he'd be happy to laugh at it.
Oh yeah. No, he would probably get a kick out of a lot of these.
Yeah.
This is like the kind of stupidness I think would be great for us.
I'm going to really quick dump this stupid website's link in the Discord here.
Yes.
Oh my god. Okay. I have like one last actual news story here before we wrap up.
Palate cleanser.
So, palate cleanser. There's an article posted in the New York Times titled Kodak CEO got stock options day before news of loan sent stock soaring. I wanted to go through this real quick because there's been a lot of just people who don't understand how the stock market works and how insider trading works. And
Yes.
there's been just like generally a lot of misinformation out of it. So, like to start, what happened here is not at all insider trading. If something is insider trading, it means that somebody gets a piece of information and then decides to make some sort of movement in the stock market or like, purchasing or selling stocks to their financial gain. That is insider trading, and it is highly regulated and highly illegal, especially if you're a CEO. If you're a CEO, you have to get everything pre-approved, and if you don't, there are huge issues about it. What happened with this whole Kodak thing is, and to start, a lot of people hear Kodak and they pretty rightfully think cameras because that's what they sort of gained notoriety for.
Of course.
But today, Kodak is basically just a chemical company in the same way that Dow is. They became notable for the chemicals that they made for film back when film was actually a thing, and you had to actually process film in a dark room because they made really good products, high quality products. Today, they are just a generic chemical manufacturer. And with COVID, they make products that people need to do research and stuff. And as a result of that, the White House announced that Kodak would be getting a $765 million federal loan to produce ingredients needed for pharmaceutical production in the US. Because of that, their stock price, of course, exploded. It went up like 1,000%, which is nuts. Um, this is the kind of thing where if you were like on like a penny stocks subreddit or any of like the stock subreddit, this apparently got leaked the day before, and if you put like $1,000 in on this, you would have made thousands of dollars.
Hell yeah.
It was crazy how huge this exploded. Um, what ended up happening with this Kodak CEO is that he had a number of stock options that had been negotiated a long time ago, which basically means that he had elected to take a reduction in his pay in exchange for acquiring stock in the company at a later date at a predetermined price, I'm pretty sure, or at least a predetermined range of prices. So he was basically guaranteed to be getting stock in Kodak at a great value for sometime in the near future. That date was predetermined. And then this happened. And it looks really suspicious because it's like, oh, he got all these stock options the day before this news broke. And while it is grubby and, top notch capitalism on his part, it's not illegal. These stock options have been set in place for months before this happened. And he very understandably made the financial decision to hold off on announcing his company's acquisition of this $765 million federal loan until after his stock options came through. And he made a shitload of money. He made like $50 million off of this.
Damn.
So It's grubby. It probably should be looked into like as a future thing because of how just kind of gross it is. But based on the current law, it's not illegal.
Damn.
So yeah, that's that. That's all I got.
What a show. We started
Mm-hmm.
off really depressing and just way too real, and then we went fucking insane.
Mm-hmm. I did not expect that to go this way.
You mean well?
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful.
Vox. This was all from Vox, by the way, that this came about, and it's like it's so weird. Vox is such a weird news company.
Aren't they, though?
They are.
Hmm.
That's all I got. I'm out.
I'm I'm out too. We might well call it for the day. But before we end this,
Yes.
we do have to solve one mystery.
What's that?
Did I have a piano the whole time? Maybe. I'm the Infamous Oryan, and I'm a Schmo.
I'm Cairo, and I'm a Schmo.
And that was a really anticlimactic joke. Thank you for listening.